Hi, welcome back to All Things 3D with Aviral Singh. So today we're going to actually talk about the machine. So I've been doing this for a little over a year and a half, and the one thing I realized as I read and learned more was that terminology is very important. So today we're going to learn about the terminology of the parts of the machine so that anybody who's interested in doing 3D printing and learning about 3D printing can benefit from this. So, the 3D printer moves in three axes, X, Y, and Z. The axis which goes horizontally, this is the X axis. And this stepper motor is what controls the movement in the X axis. The Y axis movement is controlled by this stepper motor in the back. And hidden away here is the motor which controls the Z movement right here. And it is controlled through the Z rod, which moves the printer up and down. The fourth stepper motor is right here, and this is the extruder stepper motor. So let's talk about how the printer actually prints. This is a filament. This is 1.75 mm PLA. And as you can see, this filament is actually inserted into this extruder. And as we look at the extruder, you can see this gear which actually pushes the filament into this Bowden tube. The Bowden tube then goes all the way to the hot end. This is the hot end assembly. It looks quite complicated, but let's go through the various parts of it. So if you look at the hot end, the most important part of the hot end is the nozzle. This is where the plastic comes out of. The nozzle on this machine right now is a 0.4 mm nozzle. Once the Bowden tube goes in, the nozzle is actually heated. So when this is heated, the heat cannot come up to the Bowden tube because once the plastic is pushed in, it is heated in the middle and the pressure pushes it out of the nozzle. So this whole object is actually a heat sink. So again, the Bowden tube plugs into the heat sink and the heat sink is then plugged into the nozzle and the filament passes through the Bowden tube into the nozzle. The rest of this assembly, this is called a fan shroud and you can print various designs, and here are two fans. This fan is called the hot end fan. The job of the hot end fan is to make sure that the heat does not go from the nozzle to the Bowden tube, and this is on all the time. This is the part fan. If you look at these wings, the wind from this fan is being pushed through these wings to the actual part below the hot end. Part cooling is a very important activity and can decide the quality. You can control it through the fan speed, the size of the fan, etc., etc. We'll talk about those things later. The nozzle then lays down plastic on this surface, which is called the build plate. This particular build plate is a glass build plate, but you can have different forms of build plate. For example, this is another kind of a build plate. This is PEI, this is flexible. But I generally use the glass build plate. So here are the various parts of the machine that we need to know the terminology of in order to really understand the machine. So we talked about the parts of the machine today. We looked at the axes, the stepper motors, the X, Y, and Z stepper motors, the Z rod. We looked at the extruder stepper motor. We looked at the filament and how it connects to the extruder, flows through the Bowden tube, and goes into the hot end. The end of the hot end is called the nozzle. The nozzle is where the plastic comes out of, and we need to make sure that the heat from the nozzle does not get to the Bowden tube. For that, there is a heat sink and the hot end fan. And we also saw the parts fan. We saw the build plate, and we will see the functions on all of these. So thank you so much. See you again next time.